Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the GGB Supplier Showcase. As always, I am your host, Jess Marquez, and I'm pleased to be joined by a man who needs no introduction in this space. Readers of this space will know just by seeing him, just by his trademark hair. None other than Paul Gordon, Senior Vice President of Sales for Rymax. Paul, how are you doing today, sir?
Well, I think the hair looks good, so it's a good day, right? Is
That's
that
true.
kind of right? Good to see you. It's nice to always talk on an annual basis about G2E, about the industry. So yeah, it's great.
It is nice. And to your point, I think I have to go back and look, but it's probably been around almost an exact year to the day since I last saw you. So that's always good. It reminds me, it's like an annual reminder that G2E is near. So just catch me up on, what have you guys at Rymax been doing over the last year, kind of how have things been going, and is there anything new that since the last time I saw you?
So things. Let's talk about just in general the business, right? So the
Sure,
business
sure,
is robust, which is great.
sure.
The casinos are steady. I mean, there's been some decline in certain markets. We know that. Player loyalty continues to be one of the most important initiatives, right, for all of marketing, and that's where we play. So it's been very good. Challenges, be perfectly transparent. The tariffs have had an impact because it's increased prices. It's made us have to look at what our pricing model is and also in terms of who we're selling to, in terms of what makes sense. I think from an economic standpoint, what's been very strong for us is that consumers are seeing that things cost more at retail. And so therefore they're really looking forward to what is that giveaway at the casino? What product can they get? And we always do branded products. We've talked about this for years. And so we try to deliver what people would buy at retail. So the reality is there's a lot of uncertainty about the economy. And pricing has in fact gone up across the board, but that plays into loyalty in a positive way, quite frankly. And so that's really what we've seen over the last few months. We've had a lot of shopping sprees, and everybody that's listening to this, if anyone's listening, knows the shopping sprees. We go into a casino, we set up a ballroom, we have different vignettes and product categories. We've actually seen the highest redemptions that we've had over the last, let's say, 10 years. Because again, people are coming in, they're saying, hey, I've got these comp dollars, and these are products that we're going to buy anyway. And they're coming in and they're redeeming for it. So business has been strong. And I think that we'll weather sort of the economic storm, I hope. And we're looking really forward to a very good fourth quarter and a great 2026.
So that's interesting, and literally, it's one of those things that every business has to account for in some way, shape, or form, whether it's the direct product costs or indirect things such as travel, et cetera, et cetera. I think for you, my question for you guys at Rymax is like, and I realize obviously that we're all kind of figuring it out as we go along. If anyone has a set answer at this point, if anyone who's overly confident in this answer, I guess would be the one not to trust, right? But how do you guys see it in terms of making adjustments for the current environment? How far down the road, I guess, are you guys going in the sense of like, okay, we are bracing for this for the long term and we're going to operate as such, or for right now, we're going to continue as sort of like a on the fly maybe, or kind of a shorter term outlook? Kind of where do you guys land on that? And again, I realize that it's not a set answer really, but kind of if you had to choose one of those two camps, what would you say?
Great question. I think there are two things. So I
Sure.
think in terms of certain categories, you want to buy in heavy. Okay, and we did that. We did that because we anticipated that there would not be just one price increase, but there'd be multiple price increases because of the uncertainty of the tariffs. And they do change. They change on almost a weekly basis. So, we bought in certain categories that we knew would be an issue. Some of those categories are like electronics, gaming systems, things like that. You can be a little bit more flexible in some other categories, like the fashion categories, where you can play a little closer to the vest. And the reason for that is because the life cycle of those products is very short, because it's a fashion-driven category. And so you can stay up to speed on those things and be a little bit more reactive in terms of what the prices are. And then some are just steady categories that you just need to bring in regardless of what price increase or decrease there is. And that really falls into like appliances and things like that. So we have a team of people. We have merchandisers, we have buyers, we have everybody that analyzes things. We talk to the manufacturers on a regular basis, and we try to put together really what the best formula is. and see what the demand is going to be. So I think we're in a pretty good position. But your question is very, very good, and the answer is that it's actually addressed on multiple layers.
How would you, and that's very interesting, by the way, and I think, I'm going to assume that there are probably whole categories of things that you got, or maybe like if you were to go back to say January 1st, I would assume there's probably certain categories that you guys had lined up or had emphasized for this year that maybe you have to change or kind of dial back or et cetera, make a change on the fly. I think one thing one question that comes to my mind is like when we compare and contrast to the last, I guess if you want to call it the last major event, that being the onset of the COVID pandemic and related, the subsequent fallout related to pricing and supply chain and stuff like that. What is there any sort of like lessons, or how would you compare and contrast the difficulties of those times compared to maybe what we're seeing today? Is it like completely different, or is there certain things that you say, hey, we saw this a few years ago and now we're kind of like coming back to it, or is there any correlation between the two?
So COVID's challenge had more to do with production. Okay, and the component parts. Believe it or not, it was very hard to get golf clubs because the grip manufacturer, was in a back order situation. In this situation, it's different because the parts are there. It's the cost of the parts and the manufacturing that's different. And so it is, in fact, a different animal. But with that being said, I think that there's also a few things that are parallel in terms of understanding what manufacturers you can sort of count on to deliver the products. We bring on probably about 15, maybe 20 new brands a year. You bring them in, and you immediately start to offer them to your clients. Post-pandemic, and even in the situation in terms of the cost and the tariffs, we're a little bit more cautious in terms of how we're going to roll the products out, because you don't want to have a highly desirable product that you can't deliver to the end user. That's going to be a dissatisfying experience, right? A little bit of a different dynamic in terms of how you onboard the brands. And you really have to kind of forge a good relationship and stick with the people who you know are going to be able to deliver the goods to you. Because in this environment, everything has changed, right? There's a real sense of immediacy. People do something online, they're expecting they're going to get it within a couple of days. So you need to make sure you have the product, you can deliver the product, and you're delivering what that consumer, in this case the player, ultimately chose.
Well, I guess, and after hearing your response, I guess it's probably, maybe it's a bit naive of me to think that, why would the problems be the same, right? Why it would always be something else that would pop up. It could never be something that you could actually.
It was a very good question. It was a great question. Hopefully you learned something out there from the answer.
Sure, of course. So let's talk a little bit about, I want to talk about free play. Now, free play obviously has been one of, if not the biggest cornerstone of loyalty programs for casinos for time immemorial, long before my time. But it is interesting to see now, you have a lot of smart people, smarter than I, who are coming out and saying, look, like maybe, maybe the returns just aren't there, or maybe we have to kind of fundamentally rethink this space and kind of come up with new mixes of comps and stuff like that. So it's not even so much a question, just I want to bring up the topic and kind of hear your thoughts about, the quote unquote diminishing returns of free play and kind of the quest of rebalancing those mixes.
So we've always had a battle free play in terms of promotions. Okay, because obviously there's nothing in it for us as a company if they're offering free play. Free play, though, does have a role. I think it's very good to initiate trial. I think it's very good to get people to sign up for the Players Club. And once you get into a Players Club, then you can start to get data from the player. You're going to be able to forge a different type of communication with them because they're now enrolled in this. And so I think that there are certain things where it really makes sense, where it plays out real well. I think as a promotion, it's fairly weak, and now the data is showing that. It really is showing that you're not getting people to spend more because they're basically just taking less out of their pocket for the free play. Studies have shown that even when they reduce the free play, the frequency of the player and their number of visits pretty much stays constant. Our argument has always been there's no residual value to free play, and there's no differentiation from your casino to another casino with free play. So, I always talk about like the sports analogies, so my Eagles are off to a fast start, go Birds, for those of you that are
That
out
is
there.
that is right. I did not pay him to say that, by the way. I'm sure everyone's going to give me crap because I always proclaim my Eagles love to everybody who will listen. But that was not a paid endorsement, by the way. So please
No,
continue.
no, absolutely. So, what is the ultimate goal in football, right? It's to get the ring, right? It's the ring. Long after the score is recorded, long after the bonus check has been paid out, it's the ring. And if you see the old timers that come up there and they're talking, and it's Terry Bradshaw who won 4 or whatever, it's still the ring, right? So the trophy value of an item is something that is critically important, and I think has a great value to the casino. Now, we're not giving out Super Bowl rings, but you are giving out, it could be anything from watches to jewelry to handbags to fragrance, whatever it is. And as long as the player is referring to that, is using that, there's always going to be a connection with the casino. There's always going to be, oh, I got this because I frequent this. And the casino creates a point of differentiation in terms of what the value of the item is or what the brands are that are being offered. Free play is so easy to duplicate. It's so easy to top your competitor if you're in a market where there are a lot of casinos. And again, it has no trophy value. So I don't knock it in terms of it being a tool. Like I said, there are a couple of areas where it's important. I can tell you that when we run promotions where we're physically on site and we're doing shopping sprees, the number of players in terms of percentages that opt for free play over a product is actually fairly small. Probably averages somewhere around 12%, maybe 15%, depending upon the property. Because people say, you know what, yeah, I was going to get a laptop. I should get a laptop, or I should get this item. And so that's really where it comes into play. So I think that the statistics bear it out, that it's not really building anything above and beyond in terms of more coin in. It's not doing more to build frequency of traffic, but I think it is a good tool to initiate trial and certainly to get them to enroll in the players.
So when you have conversations with operators, kind of what kind of reaction are you getting to that? Or like, is it something that like people are very precious of that and they're saying, whoa, we don't want to, we don't want to change that? Or is it more so like they recognize also the fact that, they may want to change, but they may not know how? It's almost like a cause and effect thing where it's like, they've established this practice and it's kind of become so ingrained in the casino experience, and now they're kind of looking at it like, well, we can't get rid of it per se, or you know what I mean? It's almost like you gave a lot and now you're kind of figuring out. So I'm kind of curious as to like what kind of reception you're getting, I guess, for that message. If it's like yes, we agree, we want to change it, or if it's still very much a hesitancy of like, whoa.
Your comment in the very beginning where you said it's been around a lot longer than you have.
Sure, sure. Most things have.
Yeah. But part of it is a generational thing.
Sure, okay.
People have been in the casino industry for a long time. They see it as a tool that's invaluable and they want to use it and it's easy to execute. For people that are coming into the industry who are looking and can look at reports that have been published and see sort of what the demand of products are, it's a little bit of an easier conversation. There's always going to be a percentage of players that absolutely want free play. It's never going to go away. And even to the point where when I set up a magnificent ballroom and we have 1,200 different products that are in there and I've got people that are staffing it, there still will be about 12%, 15% that will want free play. So that audience is going to be there. But again, talk about old timers, right? There was a time when you really only had Atlantic City and Vegas. And then you start to get Mohegan Sun and Foxwoods in Connecticut and on and on and on. And now you're looking at 40 some odd states that have casinos in there. And you have online gaming, which is probably only about a dozen states, I guess, at the stage of the game, somewhere in that range. That makes it very, very easy to place a bet. So the connection of building loyalty, of building a community, of creating events that bring people in, still revolves around giving them something of value, and we believe it's the product. We just did an event, it was an electronics event, at one of the Hard Rock properties. And it was a levels event, so they qualified based on whatever tier they can go in there, and on the table there were 5 or 6 or 10 different items that they could choose from. It was one of the biggest turnouts we had, because people like things. We don't dabble in off-brand products. Everything we have is branded. So, what's on that table is an Amazon product, an Apple product, a Sony product, Bang & Olufsen. And that I think makes a difference too. When you offer stuff that's of lower quality, of a lesser brand, it's less attractive to the player. So give them what they want, give them name brand products, make sure the product is new. On September 9th, Apple just announced all their new products, the new iPhone 17, you name it. Those will be in all of our programs. Because again, in rewards, you want to give them what they want. And even though the iPhone 16 was great 2 weeks ago, the reality is people want the 17 now, right? And so that's what the nature of the business is. And so that's sort of the conversation that we have. Do we win that battle all the time? No, not really. I mean, it's the same thing even with employee recognition. We do employee recognition programs. People say, well, our people want cash. Okay, but if you give somebody $500, it costs you $500. If you give somebody something that has a perceived value of $500, that maybe only costs the company $300, well, from a P&L standpoint, you've given them a great product, right? A great reward, cost you less. And again, the residual value, the fact that they're going to see that, they're going to use that. That's what builds the esprit de corps within a company with employees or even with consumers.
Agree, and I think it's fascinating. We talk a lot about in this industry about generational divides and preferences among players, and I think your points just now are correct. I mean, I can speak to a younger generation perspective where, we may have different taste or interest in different things, but as you said, we still like things. It's just a matter of finding those things or getting the right things in place. So I definitely agree.
That's why choice is important.
Sure.
I mean, you bring up a good point. There used to be a time where you came in and you got a cake pan, or you got whatever, and it's like, do I really want that? Am I going to give it away? I don't know, leave it in my room afterwards. Give them choice. Let them pick what they want. And it can all be within the same price point. So from a budget standpoint, you're controlling the selection. But give people what they want. Let them decide.
Well, this has been great. I just have one more to get you out on here. So obviously, we would be remiss at this stage of the year without mentioning G2E and kind of looking ahead to that. We are about, as we speak, I think we're about 2 weeks away. So right into the crunch time. What is your guys' kind of emphasis / goal for the show, and what do you hope to get out of it? I hope to see people there, obviously.
Yeah, we love the show because it's a great industry show, and we see all of our friends in the casino industry, not only just the casino operators, but also the suppliers of all the various products that are in there. So it's always a good time to get together. We probably have about 15, 20 new brands to announce. We have a really great new platform. We just launched outside the casino industry with a major financial company, one of the biggest in the world for a consumer program. So we really have a very robust, site that we can now implement in the casino world, and again, just being very, very positive about this industry. We're in a lot of different industries, Rymax, but my favorite, quite frankly, is the casino industry because they understand loyalty, they understand marketing, and they're fun to work with. And for those that are open to new ideas, and most of our clients are, it's just a great way to grow that player base and increase their play and foot traffic.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, Paul, this has been great. Always great to speak to you, my friend. We'll definitely see you at G2E and beyond. We got more stuff coming later this year, so be well, and as you say, go Birds.
Exactly. Thanks for the opportunity, as always. I do appreciate it.
Of course.